In 2020, Sybil Durable and I published an edited volume, Urban Infrastructure Reflections for 2100, that includes perspectives on how infrastructure need to change, who they'll need to serve, and what they'll need to become to thrive in the future. I'm Mikhail Chester, and today I'd like to provide some context for my chapter in the book, The Great Infrastructure Reckoning. In this chapter, I explore the idea of a tipping point, that today major decisions need to be made by infrastructure managers about whether or not they're going to engage with the growing complexity in the environments in which infrastructure need to function. The concurrence of several destabilizing conditions represents a paradigm shift for infrastructure. These changing conditions include climate change, the rapid integration of cyber technologies into infrastructure, and the vulnerabilities they produce, ideological polarization that can hold financing and decision-making hostage, and the increased access to infrastructure through new information services, to name a few. Any of these destabilizing conditions is a monumental challenge. Together, they represent a tipping point for how we must view and approach infrastructure for the future. Infrastructure appear to be stuck in the present between a past that is quickly becoming obsolete, in which many of the normative assumptions about how the environments in which our infrastructure will function are being challenged, and a future that appears increasingly out of pace for what our systems were designed for. The present isn't a good place to rest. As the foundations of our infrastructure are challenged, the decision to engage with the growing complexity of the environment appears slow, if at all existent. Part of the challenge is how we view the permanence of infrastructure and their institutions. Other markets don't have this luxury. If you aren't able to anticipate change and disruption, you will fail and your enterprise will cease to exist. Failure by infrastructure leaders to engage with growing complexity will open the door for those who are able to engage with the complexity to insert themselves in the provision of services. In engaging with increasing complex environments, we must recognize that the environment is throwing greater variety of needs and situations at us, and infrastructure today simply aren't designed to handle this variety. In short, the repertoire of responses built into infrastructure is less than the variability that the environment is producing. Now is the time to engage with that complexity, to open up the capabilities of infrastructure, the repertoire of responses, so as to thrive in a future environment markedly more complex than the past environment infrastructure were designed for. Engaging with complexity is likely to require many new capabilities. For example, planning for what happens when our systems are pushed beyond what they were designed for, restructuring decision-making for increasing stakeholders, ensuring infrastructure can respond at pace to environment change, training leaders to be able to build consensus among increasingly polarized stakeholders, recognizing the new ways in which we need to make sense of our environments, building leadership for periods of instability, designing for new information access and cybersecurity challenges, and designing for failure. Resting on our laurels is a recipe for increasing the obsolescence of our systems and accelerating the decentralization of service and governance. Thank you.